Hello, everybody. It's Gary Stuckey with Real Music. On today's show, I've got a couple of awesome ladies here talking about a brand new album they have. They're from the Mustangs of the West and a new album called Down at the Palomino. An awesome country Americana band. You need to check them out. Susanna Spring is here and Sherry Ryan Barnett. And a lot of fun to talk about this band and hear their stories. So here we go. Here are the ladies from Mustangs of the West. So y'all just released a new album called Down at the Palomino. On October the 20th?
Yes,
How
sir.
exciting was that to release a brand new album?
Oh, gee, we felt like it was nice to see. When we went into the studio, we had cut a lot of songs. So it was nice to see. We released, of course, Sea of Heartbreak, end of July, that group of songs. And then this, I think October is a good time to release it. It's got a holiday song on it. And also, we had just kind of been waiting for that to release that song Down at the Palomino. And it's nice to see it come out on an album. And I love the album artwork. Oh, I have to get it out from my word. It doesn't look but it's this song. I think this album differs from the other one. It's a little more rockin'. There's some songs that are a little more honky tonk songs like Bad for Each Other, and of course the title track. So it's been fun. We just did a show, a record release show at the Roxy on the 11th, and got to play this song, of course. And the Palomino Club on Lancashire was where our band got its start, and we played on a Tuesday night show called Ronnie Mac's Barn Dance. And he, in the ensuing years, has moved to Bakersfield, and he and his wife came to the show. So it was so nice to see where we began, and then to be able to have it culminate in this record and this song. Our producer found this song for us, and it was an odd little synchronicity because there's a movie coming out called Palomania about the history of the Palomino, and
Cool.
Sherry and I were interviewed for that because we were one of the bands that played a lot on that Tuesday night show. So when Kirk found this song, it's a John Beelan song from Flying Burrito Brothers, and it's about his time and what he remembered at the Palomino, and that was a little bit before our time. So Sherry and I wrote an extra verse to that song. If you listen, that third verse that talks about Jim Lauderdale and Mustangs and Rosie, that was our addition because we wanted to add in our era of the Palomino and what it was like for us to play. And we ended up reaching out to John Beeland, and I sent him a copy of the song and said, "This is what we did. Is this okay? We love the song." And he said, "Well, I love the song, and I love, you have my blessing to go ahead and release it." So that was cool.
Yeah, that's an autobiographical song anyway, but to add your own lyrics to it makes it really special. That's really cool.
Yeah, self-serving, but
It personalizes it, and I think a lot of people connect to that, connect to the song because they were connected to the Palomino, or even if they went there once in their life, and maybe they were part of the 70s Palomino, or the different eras. I mean, it closed in 1995, sadly, but it meant everybody played there, Rick Nelson to, Linda Ronstadt, when she was actually still, I've seen a picture of her playing fiddle, which very few people know about. And, Rusty Young and Poco played there. And I remember when I first met him, I was introduced to him, and I said, "Oh, and you guys both played at the Palomino." And he said, "Well, a different era," which was true. But, the song actually, even though it was written back then, somehow nobody had found this song. Nobody else had covered it. And, we felt if we could bring the eras together by customizing some of the lyrics, that it would be, it would be the way to present the song. And we've been very excited about it.
And a
Awesome.
lot of the people who are around now from the era of the Palomino, when we played, and they're being interviewed for the movie Palomania. So it made sense for us too to do it because we got to mention and honor a lot of the people that we shared the stage with, and to kind of give a nod to them because we were such a baby band back then, and a lot of the people who were playing in that country rock and rockabilly scene, they really were our idols at the time. So it was nice to be able to add in, and honor them as well.
That's true.
So how did you come up with the songs for the album, as far as songwriting and the ideas, and how long did it take you to write everything and come up with the album?
Well, I mean, Susanna's our main songwriter, but I think that when we recorded this album, the interesting thing was we had a set of songs we were going in with, and the originals were by Susanna or Susanna and co-writes. But as we were in the process of recording the album, our co-producer, who's also our label head, Kirk Passage, would come in and he'd say, "Oh, I got this great idea for a cover song that you could do. That go home and listen to it tonight, and we'll cut it tomorrow." And it was like, what? Well, he did that 3 times, and so the album got longer, bigger, and not every. I mean, it was amazing. This band would come in the next morning, and we'd cut basic tracks, and they sounded good, and we made those songs our own, and changed up some songs that we really grew to love, that we may not even have, connected with when we first heard the original version, in maybe a case or two. But the album got to be bigger than one album, so there was talk of doing a double album. And anyway, as it progressed, what went down was that it became 2 separate albums. So that's why, so that's why we have all this material together. And then the second album, we added tracks that had been released, that people really hadn't heard. We didn't have, we're still growing our fan base, and they were only released digitally. And for people who want to have a physical, a copy of it, we actually got to put it on CD. So,
Awesome.
So that's how this came about. So it was all pretty much one big recording session, but then we got to release it in 2 different releases.
Awesome. Yeah, that Time for Me to Fly, that's a cool version of REO Speedwagon. That's one of those bands that everybody knows. I mean, how do you approach a song like that and make it your own song?
Take it, Suze.
I think you add a totally different voice to the song, which we did. That lead vocal is our wonderful bass player, Holly Montgomery, and she just has this big, gritty rock voice that all of us love harmonizing with. But as a lead vocal on that, I think that when you talk about making the song your own, I feel like that's how we and she made the song our own. Yeah, that song's iconic, and iconic with, big stacked harmonies. So we stepped away from that. Our version is a little more spare, so you can really hear the emotion in her voice. And I think her voice carries that track. There are other little sweetenings and flavors in it instrumentally, but that to me, when I listen to that song, I listen to that voice.
It's a great job. And there's another cover y'all do, As Tears Go By. I always love that, the Rolling Stones version, and me and my dad used to sing that song together. But it's a cool song. It's a really cool song to cover. Now, how did you get the idea for that song?
I always loved that song. When I read about Stone's history, and of course there were all those posters of Mick and Marianne Faithfull, and then of course her version of that song. There's old footage of that, and I think I was just a fangirl of that song and the idea of the romance of that couple and that era in time. And It's always been one of my favorite songs too. That's great that you sang it with your dad. That's a pretty great memory.
That's
And
so cool.
the lyrics are, I remember reading that, I think it was Andrew Oldham locked Keith and Mick in a room and they had to write that song. And so a lot of it has that lyrics about deprivation, what they see outside and what they can't have. But
Right.
that song really spoke to me. And the way that we wanted to do it, though, was to really slow it down because I think we heard it in different way.
Right.
The Marianne Faithfull one kind of lopes along and in a more of a 60s pop way, but ours is almost like house version or ambient version. And I love that about it. It was fun to sing that song. I love the track and the guitars on it and and violin. So that's funny you mentioned that because that's one of my favorite tracks on the record.
No, mine too. Mine too. It's very etheric, and it was, we'd played around with the song before when we were first together as the Mustangs, but we didn't get an opportunity to record it. So that here we had this chance, and it was, I think it was like the first cover tune that I really was hoping we'd get to do, and I remember kind of suggesting it to Kirk Passage that we would go in and cut it, and he saw us live once after he had signed us, and he said, well, yeah, I think maybe do a cover tune. And I said, as years go by, and I kept putting the bug in his ear, and then we did it, and it suits Susanna's voice so beautifully, so perfectly. And I don't think we've done it live yet still, which is funny. But that remains to be seen. We certainly can.
Well, y'all need to. I hope y'all do.
We should
Yeah.
I think everybody will enjoy that. So tell me this now. Y'all had been apart for a lot of years. How did y'all reconnect after all those years? That had to be cool to just kind of say, let's do this one more time. It's cool to get a second chance at things in life, right?
Yes.
So how was that? How did that happen?
I think if you had asked me if this band would ever get back together, I would have said never. I mean, it just didn't. I never entertained that possibility. But Sherry did. And after the band broke up, we went different places in the country. Holly moved to DC. I went to Nashville to write songs. And Sherry, of course, is a music concert photographer, and she's got that great new book out, Eye of the Music, that's doing well. And we just all went our own way. And Sherry and I stayed in touch. I was writing for Blue Water Music at the time, and I would send her songs and say, here's what I'm doing, and what do you think about this? And I sent her one song called T-shirt from California. Of course, at that time, my co-writer and I named it She's Got Your Heart. And she said, I think, we should cut that song. And I moved back to Northern California, where my family home is, and we stayed in touch. And she said, we should, give this a try with the band. And she had been talking to Holly, our bass player, again, one of the original three. And she had reconnected with Suzanne Morissette, who'd played with Holly in rock bands. And then Aubrey from Shooter Jennings' band, Sherry had met, and that ended up being the new group of Mustangs, now Mustangs of the West. And Sherry knows Snuffy Walden, so he let us go into his studio, and we worked with engineer George Landris, who's wonderful. And we got together, learned the song, cut the track, made a video all in the same day, took some pictures, and then Sherry started taking it around to see if there was interest, could we, in signing us. And I wanted to mention that she was also really adamant that we should rename the song T-shirt from California, because that's the first line of the chorus, and you hear it constantly, and it's a really singable chorus. And I asked my co-writer, well, what do you think about this? And he said, yeah, I think it's a good idea. So we reached out to the publisher, they updated the name, and then we were essentially ready. And it was really through Sherry's efforts that we ended up, she met Kirk Passage, who's founder of Blue Lawn Records, now KZZ, the imprint. and he had invited us to come into the studio, Clear Lake Audio in LA, and we just had this 6-hour rehearsing and playing session. We played 6 original songs, and he would just have people come in and out of the studio, and they were some name producers, and they would just say things like, well, why don't you all change it up and change the key, and why don't you change the tempo? And we did that over and over again. It seemed like it lasted forever. And I think they just wanted to make sure, he wanted to make sure after hearing the recording that we could actually play the songs and what our level of musicianship was. And evidently we passed, because he took us all out to dinner and said, hey, do you all want a record deal? And it's kind of, when you said second chances, if anybody had told me about that chain of events, I just would have said no way. But things like that do happen. So that's the way it happened for us.
Once in a while. I mean, we were together, the original band, for 7 years. We didn't get a deal, but we worked all the time.
Yeah, came close to a deal. And
got close, yeah. But when it didn't happen, that's kind of when we went our separate ways. And but when I got this idea, it was like, I was not to put a negative spin on it, but I was kind of watching that, there were some people that we had even played with at the Palomino who passed away. And it was like, oh my God, if we're going to do something again together, the time is now. There wasn't any reason to wait around. It was either going to work or it wasn't going to work. And, I think the right players came together, and everybody had been, keeping up with their craft. I mean, Susanna, especially as a writer, and, Holly as a player, they had kept up their musicianship, and they were excellent players, which allowed us to literally meet a couple of the players, met the other players within the same week, within the same few days that we went in and cut T-shirt from California. And, even Snuffy Walden, at first, when I asked him, I said, can we come in and do this? And then can we also do a video at the same time? And we said, that's just too much to ask. I said, okay, well, I just wanted to ask. And then he called me back 10 minutes later and he said, come on over, let's talk about this. And he supported it. And I mean, without him, I don't know, there are all those magical pieces that came together. And then when I met Kirk by chance, Kirk Passage of Blue Elan, he apparently had been a fan of the original Mustangs band. So he was really open to listening to T-shirt from California. But I did hound him for at least 6 months, to the point of pretty much being on the verge of giving up. And, he finally took a lunch meeting with me. And then at the end of it, he said, well, I have one question. I said, what is that? And he said, well, do you have any other songs besides T-shirt from California? And I had neglected to say anything about it. And that's when he did take us into the studio. And, and honestly, when we were done, I had no idea, like any of us, we did not have the expectation that he'd sign us the same day. I figured we'd be waiting another 6 months to get an answer out of him. But that really got the ball rolling. So thanks to him.
Yeah. That had to be an awesome moment for both of you. I mean, all of you.
Yeah,
but,
definitely. Absolutely.
For things to come together, though, do you look back at your younger selves and say, what a magical moment? Because, like we were talking about earlier, for it to finally happen, there had to be a moment where you're recording your songs and you're looking at each other like, this is it. It's got to be a special time. To finally get it out there. Timing is everything, though. That has to be a big part of it, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we didn't go in with any expectations. I don't think, maybe hopes, but not expectations. And every step of the way since reforming the band, I think we've done a number of things that we didn't get to do the first time around, specifically the recording. I mean, we have 3 albums out now, and working with great producers, and even the shows we've done, we live in different parts of the country. So we don't, we can't like even call each other and say, let's have coffee and let's write a song, or let's, jam, let's rehearse. Nothing, it's a very challenging situation that, bands can do that if they are well established and they have the financial opportunity to just get together. And but our situation's a little bit different. But we've gotten to play, we've opened for some great people, we've gotten to play performing arts centers, and then when this year, the pandemic, of course, stepped in for everyone, and we had to cancel our first tour, and our first time we were going to play South by Southwest, but we finally got to do it again this year. And we played South by Southwest, and we just played Americana Fest in Nashville, and then doing this album release at the Roxy was really a pinnacle gig for us. All these things that we hadn't really expected specifically, but it's really made a difference for us.
It's nice to see the reception that these records have gotten, especially post-pandemic. Everybody was very closed down and didn't have a lot of the gigs that we had planned, and a short tour got canceled along with everybody else, and a lot of the clubs closed and didn't reopen. So that's been, I think, a real sweet thing for us, that Sea of Heartbreak has come out, got that title track and the video, and we have gotten some really good reviews about that record. And now down at the Palomino, and 3 of the band members live in LA, which used to be our home base. And I had moved to Nashville, and I'm now in Northern California, and Holly's in Washington, D.C. So Southern Cal is still our home base. And, we'll go there to rehearse. And then if we've got a string of dates, we'll rehearse there first, and then go out and play those. So that's probably what works for the band right now. And if we do some East Coast dates, which we would love to do, maybe we'll go to Holly's neck of the woods and have that prep, and then go do those dates. So it's workable for us, especially when, things get planned out these days a little further in advance. So that's helpful. And I think everybody, all of us, would love to get out and play out live. Just most of us musicians had to really be on starvation diet for live music for such a long time. And there's nothing like getting to play live, to see, well, I went in, I recorded this song, and then you play it live for an audience. Did my ideas, my vision about it, does that carry across to a bigger group? Or always there are little insights that happen when you play live, and then that changes what happens when you go back into the studio.
Awesome. I was looking at your bio, and saw that y'all appeared on Throb. Now, I remember that show from the 80s. And
oh my God, you're one of 2 people.
I do remember. I'm trying to remember. I went back and I was trying to find it on YouTube or something. There was like a foreign version.
There's a German version. It's dubbed.
Yeah,
yes.
And I'm like, I can't understand this. So, but I was trying to
figure me.
Was that the first season that you were on there, or the second season? I think there was 2 seasons.
I think it was the second season. We were written into the script. It's funny you mentioned that, because nobody really knows about that, and that it was such an odd name, and it was faded into obscurity. But it was about a record company, and there were a number of interesting people who were the musical guests. There was a group called Venice out here, and they were on it as 2 different bands, not themselves, but we were as ourselves. And I have to say, it was literally right before Susanna joined the band, and the girl who had hired me for the Mustangs, I auditioned and got hired for the original band. She had just left the group, and it was so weird. And then we get this gig. So we brought in a ringer. We brought in a friend of mine named Perla Bataya, who's known for her solo work now, but for working with Leonard Cohen. And so she's in that video, just strumming away. We gave her a guitar. She didn't play. But the rest of us were actually playing live on that. And but it's interesting. I'm the last one standing from that very original band. But Susanna joined the band right after. I wish we had met her right before.
Well, you'll have to do something. So you have to go on a show now similar to that, an updated version and see what y'all can do there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we'd love to get, you know, some TV coverage, and, you know, especially right now we're like trying to we're going to be promoting our Christmas single, which is an original called Everybody Wants Peace on Earth. And
Awesome.
you know, which is unfortunately even more timely than when we first cut it. And Susanna and Holly and I wrote it a few years ago. And you know, we hope we can get some attention. We're doing a new video for it, a lyric video. But you know, we don't do a lot of message songs, but it's really a universal message. And we're trying to pick up where John and Yoko left off with War Is Over. You know,
Right.
that was the thought behind it originally. So
Can only
Sure.
hope.
yeah.
Yeah, we need more of those kind of songs, especially these days.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right. And music, though, I always say this: music does it changes people, makes them feel better. It's great to be singing. And here's another thing I always notice: you know, with a women group, why do the women's groups always seem like they're having more fun? Is it
Because we are.
girls just want to have fun?
Well,
Is that what it
that's
is?
interesting.
It's that's funny because we always used to say,
You're right
you know, a
there.
lot of times when we were first starting out and when we played, we got to tour in Europe a couple times early on in the group. And we always would remark that when we first started playing, you know, of course we were nervous, but people would walk by the stage and they would always say, smile. And we used to say to each other, well, you know, if we were an all guys rock band, how many times do you think somebody has walked by the stage and told them to smile? Probably never. That's just in a way that it probably does play into that girls just want to have fun. And also I think maybe in terms of persona, a lot of the male rock bands probably felt as though they had to have a certain amount of machismo, maybe not so much now as then, but I think that's true. And I also think that a lot of times for women playing in bands, I hate to say that it's still unusual to see an all-female band, but when you think about bands, that is still true, much less so than it was years ago. So I think there's probably just a joy for us, and there's a freedom in it, and getting to be able to get out and do that. And at the time that we started out, there weren't that many role models and there weren't that many icons. So part of, in a way, now it's the icing on the cake for us. But I'd like to think that when we're out playing shows, that there are young women musicians in the audience who see that, yeah, you can play any instrument. You know, it's not just you as the singer surrounded by a band of guys. It could be that, but also if you are called, you want to play drums, you can play drums. And so I think it's so much changed than when we started out, but still, especially in country music, there's still not very many all-female bands.
No, and you know, as far as female guitar players, I've mentioned this before, but when I auditioned for the band, the original band, they couldn't find a female country guitar player. And I wasn't even that good. I mean, I had just fallen in love with country music basically for the first time, because there were these great acts coming out and great songwriters. But the Mustangs had the original drummer's husband playing guitar for them until I joined the band. And now, you know, circling back now, I mean, it's just amazing how many incredible female guitar players there are. And I mean, there's a magazine called Guitar Girl magazine that, you know, fortunately we've been in, but there would have been nothing like that. They would have had like one person. They would have had Bonnie Raitt. I mean, Bonnie Raitt opened those doors for a lot of young women, and ironically, so did Karen Carpenter as a drummer. You know, but it was still rare. You know, when I was a kid, it was just like, you know, female bands were a novelty, and that went on for a long time. But as Susanna said, even now, if you think in country music, there are bands that they call all female bands, but they're not. They're singers with you know, bass and drums or guitar backing him up. And, there have been a few that have come along, but very few.
Talking about inspiring people, though, I mean, that's got to be an inspiration. Well, there's two things I was thinking about inspiration wise with the all girl group, and the fact that you get together, and dreams do come true. Miracles happen, if you will, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. I mean, because if you're looking at it like this is never going to happen, it had to have inspired some of your probably family and friends. They probably were even shocked because they know you better than anybody else. They probably said, "Yeah, there's
What's
no way
happening?
that's going to happen. Yeah, this is not going to happen." So it had to turn some heads everywhere, right? For
Well,
y'all
I
to get
hope
back.
so. I hope so. I don't think we have a lot of naysayers around us, though. I mean, I think everybody's been really, really supportive, and outside of the band, and what started out as our friends and family. We've developed. We keep developing a little more of a fan base all the time. As we've had more recordings out. At certain times, it's having the opportunity to record these albums. That's been the glue that I think has kept the band together at times that we couldn't perform live either because of the pandemic or because of the distance between us. Even though three of us live in Southern California, our fiddle player, Aubrey Richmond, does a lot of touring. She toured for several years with Shooter Jennings, and which means that I don't see her even though I live 10 minutes from her. And our drummer lives down in Orange County in the OC, and it takes her as long to drive up to LA because of traffic as it takes Susanna to fly down from Northern California. So it's not like the three of us here actually get together a lot. I mean, it's great when we do, but usually it's for the band. It's when the band gets together to rehearse or record or play.
It's nice that we were able to have that meeting place, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Four of it. It's a short trip for me down to Southern Cal, and Holly really is the one that it's a longer haul for her. But I think we make it worthwhile because we usually have lots of things to do while we're there, or we've got dates booked where we can go string of dates and just travel within that area. We got to play some good gigs during the summer and Northern and Southern California. And we would love to branch out. So our first time to Nashville was for Americana Fest. And of course, it was exciting for me to Aubrey spent time in Nashville. Holly actually went to Belmont. And I think others had made little trips there, but that was a milestone for us to go and get to play as a band. And it felt so good to me. Nashville's changed a lot since I left. I hadn't been back there, in 8 years or so, but still had a lot of friends there, and they came out to the shows and got to see, how the downtown has changed. And there are so many more. A friend of mine who was on a community board that follows the downtown building there told me about all the new music venues that are little theaters, probably 200 to 500 seat venues that are now going to be there in Nashville for people to play. So I would love it to be able to spend a little more time back there as a band, because it felt like a good fit for us.
Awesome. So what about the shows that you've got? Have you got a set list? And I know you got some more in the future. What's the next thing you got on your calendar coming up?
We always go down to it's kind of a tradition at the label. Bluey Lawn and KZZ will probably travel back down to LA first part of December, and Kirk, our label head, does such a great creative thing for the artists. Of course, there's a holiday party, but then after that, there's a couple of days of just he'll rent a recording studio. Sometimes it's Clear Lake or Fever, and we'll all meet and collaborate. If there are any things that we need to finish up for things that we're recording, we'll do it. We'll sing on each other's records, maybe do a little bit of writing. So he always puts together a holiday album that proceeds go to charity. So he's got a couple songs picked out, and we'll either do gang vocals or different people play on them. One year, when Rusty Young was still alive, he and I were friends from Nashville, and when he got signed also to Blue Elon, we recorded a duet together that he had written, and then we got to work on some of the songs for his album that he was working on at the time. So that I foresee is probably the next thing for us, that we'll all get together with the other artists down in December. And we're looking, and I think our label is looking at maybe booking some dates for us during February and March, maybe around the time of CRS, Country Radio Seminar, and hopefully some shows with Cimarron, because they're musically, they're just such a good fit for us. And we know each other, and we've talked about wanting to play shows together.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing some more stuff from that single, the Christmas song. You know, I guess that'll be released in time for Christmas, and you know,
Yeah,
but
we're working on a video for that right now. So that is probably the next thing that will be released publicly.
And that song's on I think it's on a pretty big compilation of holiday songs that gets sent out to radio. So that may come across your desk.
Yeah.
I have to say that,
Awesome.
that your logo behind you, it's got this halo look
oh
to
yeah,
it.
it's
Now that we're
it does not the horns.
no,
No
That's
horns.
good. Okay, good. Maybe somebody really cares about me. No. I'm not going to argue with that. You know, I'm just saying. I mean, what can I say? I mean, when you got it, you got to go with it.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I won't keep y'all or anything. But oh yeah, cool guitar, by the way. The green,
Thank you.
the
That
ocean.
well, I'll tell you, this guitar is pretty special. It's called an Airline Map guitar. It's modeled after
Oh yeah,
a guitar from the 60s, but it's actually a baritone guitar.
wow.
So it's tuned. It's very low, and it's very out of tune. But it's the guitar that is the sound on down at the Palomino, like the signature lick on that. It's and the solo or fills on that. It's all with this guitar, which I love. I kind of do a lot of, I in the name of studying, I discover guitars, and then of course I must have them
Sure,
because I might use them for one song. But that's how this one came about, and it's quite a treasure. So thanks for noticing.
Yeah, beautiful guitar. I'm sure it sounds great. Have to check y'all out one day.
I wanted to mention one thing when you're asking about what's upcoming. Our label has put together a compilation of outlaw songs, and that I think is coming out next year. And we recorded a great track. It'll be a surprise.
It'll be a surprise, but
okay.
We're still finishing it. And then I think also next year there's a group of producers who have put together a movie called Palomino about the history of the Palomino, and we were interviewed for that as well. So it would be great if Down at the Palomino is out and Palomania comes out next year. So that'll be a nice tribute to a club that meant that really gave us our start.
Yeah, and it will draw some people to recognize a great band. I mean, I've enjoyed I've enjoyed the album, been listening to it. Really great album, and
thank you.
And I'm hoping more people will get a chance to listen to it and check y'all out. Hopefully one day you'll come down here to South Alabama. Oh yeah, home of William Lee Golden, might I add, of the Oak Ridge Boys. Just saying. So yeah. I mean, maybe y'all can do something. I always say that. Maybe who knows? Maybe I'm the promoter guy in between. Y'all can work something out or something. But
I love looking at those. I love looking at those age-old photographs of him before the beard, and he beyond the beard. Beyond the beard.
That's right. He actually had a face at one time.
He had a face, yeah.
He had a face. Well, I'll have to show him this. Well, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me today, and like I said, I'm looking forward to what y'all got going on in the future, and maybe we can do this again one day.
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
Yay! Thank you so very much.
Well, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good day.
All right, you too.
Thanks again.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Be sure to check out the band Mustangs of the West on mustangsofthewest.com and all their social media sites and on YouTube, and get you a copy of that new album. And let me know what you think. And until next time, everybody, always remember to keep the music real.